when you're in the middle of it, it can be really difficult to see. I can spot them a mile away when they are dealing with anybody that isn't me. But when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. So we're going to talk about tactics. Guys, less than a sixth of the possibilities of tactics for this type of abuse. So I hope that you will click on the link in the description box to get the full list so that you can identify these things when they're happening to you, when they're happening to other people. These are not just tactics that romantic partners that are abusive can use. Parents can use these to abuse and manipulate their kids, whether they're small children or they're adult children. Crabby bosses can use these. Friends can use these. These are just simply abuse and control tactics that people do verbally and mentally. But no matter who's doing it or what specific tactics that they're doing, it is not your fault, and you do not deserve it. And that needs to be the truth that shines through. Stay tuned.
Powerful. Your things are as powerful.
Hello, welcome back. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is video 4 of a 4-video series. So you're going to want to go back and look at 1, 2, and 3 for some great information about domestic violence. If you've stayed with me for these 4 videos and even maybe checked out some of the other videos on my channel, thank you. It's nice to see you. I decided to go with a hat today. I think it's a good plan. I realized that caps are risky with YouTube, but I got light, so I should be okay. It says identity on it. Yeah, identity on it. And then underneath the bill, it's got a fingerprint. I love it. This is like my favorite cap. It comes from Colton Dixon, who's a music artist. But I figured today, since we're going to talk about emotional and mental abuse, which mainly is just, the point is to chip away at who you are. Identity is a good thing to keep in mind. Psychological abuse, also known as mental or emotional abuse, involves a person's attempts to frighten, control, and isolate you. There are many strategies. We're going to look at 3 different tactics in 3 different categories, and then we have a bonus. So the categories are humiliation, invalidation, and criticizing. That's one category. Control and shame is another category. And accusing, blaming, and denial. That'll be the 3rd category. And then the bonus is going to be emotional neglect and isolation. We're going to get into that also. But I've got a list of 60 of them that I'm going to make available after this video. In the description box below, you can click on the link and get the full list. I think it's important information to have because you can't look out for something in your life if you don't know it exists. And emotional and mental abuse, verbal abuse, it's cunning, it's strategic, very strategic. Think chess, think strategy game, and then you got psychological abuse. So you want to be informed. Humiliating, invalidating, and criticizing, these tactics are used to undermine your self-esteem. They are harsh and unrelenting all the time. They can be seen in matters big and small. Character assassination is number 1. It usually involves the word always. He's always doing this. She's always doing that. You're always wrong. You're always late. You're always badly dressed. You always are screwing up. You're always disagreeable. You always whatever, fill in the blank. Nobody is always anything. It's literally an impossibility statistically. You can't always anything. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Always doesn't happen for humans, but it's a way to tear you down. And if you hear it enough, it's very effective. Patronizing is number 2. Aw, sweetie, I know you tried, but my parents are just so much smarter than you. I don't expect you to keep up. I feel like patronizing is something that women do to men a lot more than men do to women. So I can definitely see that being a tactic in a situation where a male is the victim and the woman is the abuser, but it can happen either way. So those are just intended to be like, you're not good enough. I'm just putting that out there. You're just not. The third one that we're going to look at here is public embarrassment. They might pick fights in public. They might expose your secrets in public. Might make fun of your shortcomings in public. Control and shame is the second category. This is my wheelhouse. I know that I experienced some of the ones that we already covered, but I don't remember them. They're the little death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of thing. Control and shame. These tactics are intended to make you feel ashamed of your inadequacies. The truth to this one is everybody has inadequacies. Everybody, including you and your abuser. And everybody that your abuser might think is great. Nobody is perfect aside from Jesus. It's not happening. Number one is threats. They might tell you that they're going to take the kids and disappear. They might tell you that they are going to whoop the crap out of you when you get home. They might tell you that they're going to cut off your phone service or whatever. Whatever they're going to hold as power over you. Threats are my wheelhouse. I have been threatened that they were going to kill me. I have been threatened that they were going to take my kids. I've been threatened that they're going to take me to court. I've been threatened that they're going to come and make a huge scene in front of my friends. It's threats. And if you believe that they will do what they're threatening, it's a very good tactic of control. Because they don't actually have to do the things. And see, that's actually better. Because if they did the things, people would see it. And other people would have proof. But if you know they would do the things and you're trying to prevent that from happening because it's going to hurt you or your life in some way, they win. There's no proof that they were ever going to do anything that you know. And they know that they would. And they know that you know. And that sounds really crazy, but that's how psychological abuse makes you feel. Moving on. 2. Monitoring your whereabouts. They want to know where you're at all of the time. They want to have you account for your time. Who were you with? For how long? What were you doing there? They want you to respond to phone calls and texts immediately. If you don't, clearly you were cheating on them. Obviously, because it took you 2 minutes to answer your phone or you were in the middle of something. Sometimes they might just show up to make sure that you are where you're supposed to be. In my experience, I also had them follow me. Sometimes they follow you directly. Sometimes they would send their friends to follow me. Their friends would, and I wouldn't know who they were. I just knew that when I got home, there was a full report of what I had done, who I had talked to, for how long, and I never knew who these people were that were watching me. It could have been anybody. There's a mind screw for you. Number 3, financial control. If you didn't watch video 2 in this series about the number one thing that keeps people stuck in domestic violence relationships, watch that video. They might keep your bank accounts in their name only. They might make you ask them for money, or you might be expected to account for every penny that you spend. There's all kinds of different ways that financial abuse comes out, but financial abuse is the tactic to control your life. The third section is accusing, blaming, and denial. This behavior comes from an abuser's insecurities. They want to create a hierarchy where they're at the top and you're at the bottom. This is about the fact that they don't feel powerful and they don't feel good enough. And a lot of times, the same things, those insecurities, we pity them for. We're like, well, they had a bad childhood. They don't feel comfortable around everybody. They have a hard time letting people in, whatever the case may be. So they'll hook you on the front end with the emotional feeling bad for these insecurities. And then on the back end, they will trap you with some of these tactics. So let's look at that. Number one, jealousy. It is really common for them to accuse you of flirting with other people or cheating on them with other people because they can't imagine that you would be committed to them. Now, a lot of times, that's because they're not committed to you. A lot of times, I have discovered when they're accusing you of cheating, they very well might be cheating. But on the other hand though, some people don't, and they just accuse you of cheating because they just don't trust you. They can't trust you. And that a lot of times will come from a belief system that says that, like, women, for example, are not trustworthy. Maybe their mom cheated on their dad, or their dad accused their mom of it enough in front of them that they came to grow up believing that that's all women did. And when they got with you, they thought that you were a great person, but as soon as they were in and they were invested, then those belief systems would come back up. Denying something that you know is true. This is called gaslighting. When they deny that an argument took place or that something happened, they're telling you that what you know is true is not true at all. That's gaslighting. It's a very effective psychological tactic. It is one of the two main topics of the very first chapter of my book because it's foundational. The two things that I talk about in that chapter are intuition, which is your God-given alarm system that will let you know when you're in a dangerous situation, whether you're in a physically dangerous situation or you're in an emotionally dangerous situation. Your alarm bells will go off, and we can tune those out, and we often do. But the biggest enemy to intuition is gaslighting, and it will effectively, over the course of time, make you stop listening to your intuition, which is only there to protect you. That's the whole job of your intuition. So why would you want to dismantle that and not listen to it? Well, I know why your abuser would want to dismantle that, so that they can control you. Gaslighting is meant to make you question yourself, your memory, and your sanity. And it's very effective. Number three, they use guilt. They might say something like, "You owe me this, look what I did for you." Or, "I took this job for you." Or, "I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you." Or, "We wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for you. We helped your family out with that $300, and so now, because of that, my entire life is ruined and it's your fault." Whatever. It's just an attempt for them to get their way. It's a form of manipulation to guilt you or whatever. Each person, every human being, once they're not a little bitty child anymore, they're accountable and responsible for their own behavior and their own decisions. So if they made a decision and you were involved, they made that decision. That's not on you. They didn't have to go along with you. They didn't have to agree with you. They didn't have to be there. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to, whatever the situation is. It was their choice. Unless somebody held a gun to their head or in other ways threatened their life or the life of somebody that they love, they had a choice. And it wasn't your responsibility. Emotional neglect and isolation. Abusers will isolate you so that they can control you. I mean, they will isolate you, they will have you push away your friends and your family, your support network, so that you're dependent on them. And then it becomes this crazy cycle of, I'm gonna harm you, and then I'm gonna be your savior. And then I'm gonna harm you, and then I'm gonna be your savior. And that's gonna continue to wear you down, whether it's emotional or physical. The tactics over time do a number. And if you have multiple of them, oh man, it's effective. And if you click on the link in the description box and you get the full list of 60, you'll be able to look at, oh my gosh, there's so many different things. I don't even know if they know all of them that they're doing, but they're effective at them. Boy, we're gonna look at two different tactics that fall under this category of emotional neglect and isolation. These two aren't pushing other people away from you. These two focus on emotional neglect and isolation between you and your partner, your abuser. Number one is shutting down communication. They will ignore your attempts to talk in person, through text, on the phone. They're just gonna ignore you. They're gonna act like you don't exist. This person is your significant other. And if you're early enough in the relationship where more significant abuse hasn't taken place, this is destructive because they're treating you like you don't exist. You don't matter. This is part of the dehumanizing. They flip a switch. Right now, you're a human and you matter to me. In 10 minutes, you're not going to. And the thing is that you may not ever know when they're gonna do it. It would be understandable, a little bit at least, if they did this kind of thing when they're angry because you screwed up in some way, and that may happen. But when we're further into this, they're doing it at random. Or at least it seems random to you because it's strategy. And the goal is to keep you on your toes because you're never sure when the rug's gonna be pulled out from under you. It's like they want your head to spin because they're in complete control if your head is spinning. So right now, you're a person and I love you and I'm gonna talk to you, and in 2 minutes, I'm gonna act like you don't exist and I'm gonna completely ignore you. The second tactic that we're gonna look at is withholding affection, which goes right along with that, which is why I put them together in this video. They won't touch you, hold your hand, pat you on the shoulder, nothing. They might refuse sex to punish you in some way or to get you to do something. But human beings need each other. And when you get into a romantic relationship, you expect certain needs to be met. The need for healthy, loving touch is one of those needs. Whether it is holding your hand or hugging you or just walking by and running your fingers along their shoulder or sitting together and cuddling or sex or kissing or whatever. Those are all healthy, normal human needs. And so they will strategically take those away or deprive you of those things at different times, either for the purpose of punishment, which is still a form of control because they're punishing you for not acting the way they want you to, or to get you to do something so that you'll act the way they want you to. Either way they win and you lose. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. So I hope that you will click on the link in the description box to get the full list. Thanks for watching. Until I see you again, stay safe.